Kia ora koutou, welcome to Garden Club. Today I'm going to show you a few things that you can grow at home using the things that you might have in your fridge already. Okay, so you'll be able to grow some food for free. But before I go through some of the things that I think you might like to grow, I think it's important to check that people understand the life cycle of a plant. So lots of plants start off as a seed. Oh, that's a bit bright, isn't it? So here's some oregano seeds here. So tiny little seeds. And so if I put those seeds onto some soil and I give them sunlight and water and air, those are the basic needs of a plant, they'll grow into oregano plants. And here I've got an oregano plant here that I grew from seed. So this is about 6 months old probably, and you'll see that this oregano plant, because it's coming towards the end of the summer season, which is the main growing season, that this one is starting to develop some flowers. And so these flowers get pollinated by insects when they're outdoors. So bees or flies or wasps or ants fly into the flowers because they have delicious sweet nectar on the inside, and while they're drinking the nectar they get covered in pollen, and they move on to the next flower and the pollen gets mixed, and so that flower is pollinated. And once a flower's been pollinated, a seed develops, so the flower ends up drying up and falling off, and then there's a little seed left there, and eventually that'll dry up and then fall off onto the soil, and again the cycle continues. The seed will turn into a plant and grows a flower. Okay, so that's the basic life cycle of a lot of plants. Some develop fruit and vegetables. There's different types, but that's a basic one for a lot of green plants anyway. So if you open up your fridge and you have a look inside it, you might have, there's so many different kinds of things you could grow. You could grow tomatoes, blueberries, strawberries, zucchini, so many things you can grow from using the food that you've got in your fridge by pulling out the seeds and germinating them. However, you do need to think a bit critically at this stage and think about the season that we're in. So at the moment we're in autumn. It's not a great time to be starting to grow a lot of those types of foods because they like to start growing in the springtime and grow over the summer. You need to think about the space you've got available to grow. Like you might pull out an apple and decide to grow an apple tree, but you have to think about, have you got the space to grow that at your house? And then you also need to think about the use, like when do you want to use it? Like if I'm growing an apple tree, I probably won't get apples for 4 years or so, maybe even longer. Whereas if I want to grow some rosemary, I can use it pretty much straight away. So thinking about all those kinds of things, I've had a look and a think about what you might have at home, and I decided I had some celery in my fridge. It's the end bit of a celery. I've kind of trimmed it off a little bit, and I might just trim off the outside bits again a little bit just to make it a little bit smaller, because I'm going to pop it into a glass with some water. So you just pop it in, make sure it fits. I might pull off this other little bit here just to make it a bit narrower. You want to make sure I've trimmed the bottom of this. I might trim it a little bit more, just where the roots are, because the roots will grow around here. That sunlight is very bright. The roots will grow around here, and the plant will grow up through here. So I'm going to pop that into my glass, put a bit of water in the bottom, and then I just need to sit it onto a sunny windowsill. You can see I've got a sunny windowsill because the sun is shining very brightly through there right now. So that's one thing I can grow. That might take a couple of weeks, and I should have a really good celery plant starting to grow from there. Another thing you might have is garlic cloves. Okay, and if you have a look in your cupboard, you might find the garlic cloves are actually already sprouting from here. Mine aren't, unfortunately, which is quite unusual. They often are. But these ones aren't, so I'm not sure whether these are going to work or not. I thought I would leave this one on with the roots on the bottom and see whether that helps it get a good start off or not. So for those, I'm going to pop them into a glass jar. It's important to use glass so that the sunlight can get in to help stimulate the roots and get everything growing. So I'm just going to pop them in with the pointy bit facing up. So the bulby bit facing down and the pointy bit facing up. You pop a bit of water in there just to cover the bottom, not too much, just so that the bottom of the bulb is covered, the clove is covered. And I'll put those on the windowsill as well. Another thing you might have is some herbs. Now herbs are fantastic to grow because you buy them at the supermarket. They're quite expensive to buy just a little bunch of herbs, and they're actually really, really easy to grow in a little pot, and I can show you that next time. But first we need to get them rooted. So what you want to do is, if you've got any herbs at all in your fridge, you might have them in a plastic bag or something like that. These ones, I would probably just trim the bottom off. Just trim off a little bit of the bottom and pop them into a little vase or a jar on the windowsill, and there's a good chance that they will root. These ones here, virtually the same, but I just strip off the bottom few leaves, and you can use those for your cooking or put them on your meal. And just trim the bottoms, trim off the last couple of centimetres, pop them into a vase as well. And I've got some rosemary, and so for these as well, I'm going to strip the leaves off just by dragging my fingers down the stem. Strip them off at the bottom, give it a little trim. Oh, it's quite tough, that one. Just trim the bottom off and then pop them into something, and it looks quite nice anyway. You can sit it on your windowsill, and these things will hopefully start to take root in about 2 weeks. So you can see here actually, this is a little indoor plant cutting I took from a friend's just before lockdown, and you can see I just popped it into a glass vase, and you can see the little roots are starting to grow here. There's one there and another one there and a couple down at the bottom, so it won't be too far away, and I'll be able to plant that into some soil and grow my own pretty little indoor plant. Also, I've got one of these, a basil plant. You might want to have one of these somewhere in your house. So the same thing again, you can just take one of the stalks, trim it down near the soil at the bottom, pull the leaves off, keep the leaves because you can, especially for basil yum, very good for scrambled eggs or something like that, or in a salad. Keep the leaves, take the bigger leaves off, just leave the bottom ones on, the little ones at the top, like that. Pop it into some water, put it in the sunlight, and then it's wait and see. See if they can grow some roots. So I'm going to pop them up here in the sun, and then I'll show you how it's looking. There we go. Okay, so I've got them sitting up there. It's a sunny windowsill. Only gets the morning sun. If you don't have a sunny windowsill, that's okay. You can just pop it, as long as daylight works. I've got another windowsill in my lounge room where it doesn't get the sun, but the basil especially likes to grow there. So I'm going to be running a few more of these sessions. There'll be one on seeds, so using the seeds you've got in your kitchen. See if we can grow something from those, and also taking cuttings as well. And I'll probably look at using some recycled materials to make little pots and things like that. Yeah, so good luck. Hope you enjoy. Love to see you next time. Ka kite.